Hello. Hello, Subinay. Hello, Mr. Thomas. Dr. Thomas, how are you doing?
Hello,
Hello.
how are you?
Very good. Very nice. And about you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Shall we
Excellent.
start? Yeah,
Yeah, we can start.
yeah,
Excellent.
excellent. So we welcome everybody to this most unique cosmic conversation to the age of time between two great minds of our present time. So we have with us Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar, an world-renowned spiritual teacher, a Vedic scientist who has explored in depth into the observer who is observing the universe and shared his findings with the whole humanity, and millions of people has found peace and purpose through that. And we also have with us Professor Thomas Hartog, a renowned cosmologist of our present time, a friend and scientific collaborator of late Stephen Hawking, who doesn't need any introduction. So both Thomas and Stephen together has pioneered groundbreaking discoveries on the origin of space-time in our universe. So we are definitely going to have a beautiful conversation today. I start with one or two questions. One thing I want to share, that the knowledge of Vedas and the modern physics has always resonated together. When Niels Bohr, an atomic physicist and Nobel laureate, said that I go to Upanishad to get my answer. And along with that, German physicist Schrödinger and many more physicists has mentioned Vedas. And when Einstein was not sure about the ideas of quantum mechanics, he invited Eastern philosopher Rabindranath Tagore, and they had a beautiful discussion in his apartment in Berlin on Upanishad, Veda, and truth, love, beauty, and whether reality is an amalgamation of both observed and observer, or reality can exist without observer. So, without delaying, can I ask my first question to Thomas? Yeah, Gurudev, we can ask him.
Yes, yes,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah. So, my first question is about space, our home. And space is emptiness we see around us, but and Newton also thought so. But as we all know, that Einstein's theory of space-time told that space can also take part into the drama of life. And not only that, Einstein told that space has to expand, it is dynamic. So Thomas, can you shed some light on that? How space can expand, and if it expands into what? Into another kind of space?
Well, you said it all. Newton thought of space as something which exists independently of us, as a kind of eternal arena which does not participate in events happening within the universe. But Einstein and his followers realized that space is a physical entity which expands. Now, then you might ask, well, what is it expanding into? But the beauty of Einstein's theory is that it does not refer to anything external to our space. The space we see around us is all there is. And so the question whether or not there is space beyond the universe just never appears in Einstein's theory. And the reason is that Einstein thought of space as in geometric terms. And it's a bit like the surface of the Earth. The surface of the Earth is a sphere. It doesn't have any edge or boundary. And if you're only interested in things happening on the surface, you never have to refer to anything external. And that is the modern conception, following Einstein, of how we think about the expanding universe.
Gurudev, you want to
Lovely.
add something
Yeah.
onto?
Lovely, Dr. Thomas. It's very invigorating and this very interesting. Uh, Basically, when I see from modern physics and the ancient Vedic philosophy, I see that there is so much resonance there. In the Yoga Vasishta, in the Upanishads, in the Vedic literature, it said there are three types of space. One is Bhutakash, the physical space, and then Chittakash, the space of consciousness where thoughts and emotions come in, and then we have a Chidakash, that is the space of pure consciousness which is non-particular, that is which is much bigger. So they have said one more thing also, whereas the space, that in between space, the Chittakash, but other space they don't. The physical space is, because if you say, as you said, if it expands, where does it expand? It has to expand into something, no. Where it expands, that is space. So they say there are the four elements do expand: earth, water, fire and air. But space is called avikar, means changeless. The space does not change, but it holds all the changes. It harbors all the changes in its lap, but by in itself it neither contracts nor expands. This is what the ancient people have said about space. And the three types of space, as I said, the outer space, the visible space, and then the inner space of the mind where the thoughts and emotions come. This space expands and contracts. For example, a compliment gives you a feeling of expansion from within. At the same breath, if someone gives you an insult, that insulting remark might shrink. You feel something is shrinking, cringing. So this space, the Chittakash, the consciousness in you, which is full of vibrations, and it is called specific vibrations. The specific vibrations, they expand and contract. And there is Chittakash, the space of pure consciousness, which is non-specific vibration. They say the vibration of this is what they call it God. God is Chittakash, who is present everywhere, who can never be outside anything, nor anything be outside of him. So everything is present in it, neither expands nor contracts, nor does it behave specially for any particular thing. It is the same, it is static and hosts all the dynamism within its bowl.
Is space in the ancient literature, is space connected to time?
Yes, here the second space is connected to time, whereas other space is not connected to time. It's
because in modern physics, it's very much entangled.
Correct.
We tend to think about space and time in a kind of unified manner. And so the question whether space changes is intrinsically intertwined with how do we perceive time.
No, see, time, the definition for time is between events and between happenings. Something happens, so you measure the time. But the Chittakash, which is said, it's called the grand time or beyond time, because there is no time there. The pure consciousness, either it's called the grand time, Mahakal, or it is called beyond time, that is that goes beyond time, because time and is always connected with events happening. There it is said the past, present, future, everything is there at the same time.
Yeah, so that is, yeah.
That comes a little closer to the way modern physics thinks about space-time, not sort of as space sliced up in different moments of time, but more in terms of an entire history, so to speak. So the past, the present, and the future, fundamentally, in modern physics, in a sense, coexist, you could say.
Yes, yes.
Sorry, Subinoy.
Yeah, that was my next question actually, related to the time, that where Einstein said that the past, present, and future can be just an illusion and they can coexist. Yeah, Thomas?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what I said.
Yeah. So now we'll move to the next part, a little bit deeper into the space, because though space is expanding into itself only, as Thomas says, but the cause of this expansion, it is inbuilt in Einstein's theory of space-time, but now we know there is something called dark energy, which, because of its presence, the space started accelerating. And the dark energy is not some energy or particle, like it's like a field, as Gurudev was telling, like the Higgs boson discovery happened, and Higgs is like a field. So, does in the modern physics, Gurudev, the idea is that the field itself is there, all pervading, and from there the particles gets created like waves. So, is there any resemblance in our Vedas or Upanishad with the field?
Yeah, there is a treatise called Spandakarika. Spandakarika is from Kashmiri Shaivism, that the science of vibrations. So in this they say there are two types of vibration. One is Vishesha Spanda. Vishesha Spanda means qualified as special vibrations. Special vibrations are the matter which appears to us. Different type of matters and all that appears is special, which is localized, which is bound by space and time. But the Samanya Spanda, the general vibration, is unaffected by that, and it is unseen. It is like the field which is there everywhere, that is also just vibration. And say a particle, an object, this they call it as a special vibration. Like this body is special vibration, Thomas is special vibration. We are all special vibration of one common vibration, which they call it as God, which is everywhere, which has all knowledge embedded in it, yet only a witness for all that exists. It is not that something which interferes with that which is all there. So the Samanya Spanda, that is general vibration, is something which is invisible, and visible universe, what we say as objects are 5 elements, the 4 elements, they are all specific vibrations.
Wow. So my next question is related to that only, to Thomas. That in string theory, Thomas is an expert in string theory, where it accommodates both quantum mechanics, the theory of small, and the Einstein space-time, and it predicts dramatically that particles are nothing but vibration of some unknown energy called string. We just give the name string, and even Thomas was telling that even space, which is like, as you said, is all pervading, is just can be a vibration. Thomas, can you tell? Is it really like that in string theory?
Well, in modern physics and in quantum theory and string theory in general, the two kinds of vibrations that Srishri talked about are both there. You have fields, and then you have local excitations, which we call particles. But both are the same entity. In a sense, they're very closely connected. You can transform one into the other and backwards. Except the dark energy is a little stranger. we haven't really identified what that really is, whether that is a field or whether that is something else. Of all the fields and all the particles and all the matter, the dark energy is clearly the most mysterious one. But as you say, go ahead.
How is dark energy connected to string theory?
We are reaching the cutting edge here of physics, but the idea is that string theory envisions that there are a few extra dimensions. And those extra dimensions we envisage are curled up very, very small. And we can't see them. But the energy in the extra dimensions is reflected in the three large dimensions of physical space that we experience in terms of its dark energy. So the large dimensions of the universe inherit, so to speak, some energy which is really emergent from some extra dimensions.
Here in the Vedanta also it is said that the Brahman, that samam bonam of Krishna, that one thing by is made, that one vibration cannot be seen, it is beyond perception. You cannot see it through your senses or feel it. You can only be it but not see it. This is what they always said. You are it anyway, but you cannot know it or see it.
Yeah, so this is of course very typical in modern physics. There are so many fields and so many entities which we do not perceive, but which play a role in our physical theories and indirectly manifest themselves as particles or phenomena which we can test. And so you might wonder to what extent these ultimately mathematical constructs really exist. There is the magic of mathematics has been that it has enabled us to sort of dig into a deeper layer of reality without really perceiving it. That is a little bit mysterious why this works.
Yeah. One of the way to perceive or have better understanding about any matter or the field or the space is going inward, looking into what the subject is, So the yoga, first thing in the yoga they say, take your attention away from the object to the subject and explore what the subject is, who you are. The Vedic principles, they always encouraged questioning. They never said you cannot question what it is, They said you must question. So the question is, first question that towards the inner journey is, who am I? Am I the body? Am I the mind? Am I the breath? Am I the intellect? Who am I? Exploring the life force that is through experience. So that said, okay, go in, now shut your eyes, shut your external stimuli and go within like that. Like, when you go to CERN, you are in Switzerland, you shut yourself away from all the external things and then you wear certain mask and you go and explore. Similarly, they said you shut your eyes, shut your ears, stop for a while all the functions of all the five senses. Then your mind, which is always going out, the consciousness starts going inward. When it goes inward, it starts finding out who I am, this I, inside us. So who am I? This is the first question we go. And the thing is, you discard all the questions. And when your intellect becomes so sharp, so fine and refined, you are able to experience the really fine silence inside, the fineness of a thoughtless state. So when the mind becomes thoughtless, then you have taken the jump from Chittakash, that is the space of the consciousness which expands and contracts, to that aspect of consciousness which is simply still and which houses all knowledge. This is what the intuitive ability, intuitive knowledge all comes from that one. This is what has been said, and that's what the practices is all about.
But is there a connection between these three types of spaces that you mentioned?
Yes.
Because to me, that is the most fundamental question in modern physics now. The laws of physics, as we currently perceive them, are really still based on the Einsteinian or the Newtonian paradigm, which makes a separation between the physical laws on the one hand and the observer or the subject, as you say, on the other hand. But ultimately, of course, this is not correct. As you say, we are within the universe, and it is from our position as living beings that we try to understand the world. So ultimately, if physics has to live up to its expectations, it somehow must reconcile, it somehow must bring the physical theory of the universe together with the subject discovering this. And Newton and Einstein did not do this. One way forward probably is through quantum theory. So quantum theory allows us to, quantum theory breaks down this sharp barrier between the world and the subject, because the subject influences the world in quantum theory. So the history of the world is not disconnected from the subject asking questions. And so I think if physics is going to move forward and really live up to its expectations, somehow we have to learn to think about the universe as a whole in quantum mechanical terms. And I think it will come closer to the picture that you have in mind. And that was the theory that Hawking and I were developing towards the end of his life.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one reason why in the East, here in India, science was always encouraged. Science was never suppressed, because the criteria has been the same. So even when anyone wants to go into finding out about the subject, the first thing they have to learn is about the four elements: earth, water, fire and air. You learn about these four, then you come to space element. Then you say, from space element, what is the next thing? It said next is the mind. And what is beyond the mind? It's the intellect. And intellect, then memory, how the consciousness has got four different functions, they said. It's one consciousness but functions in four ways. Mind, the perceptual ability; intellect, the deciding, judging by its previous storage of knowledge; memory, the storage of knowledge; and then ego, the identity. The life identifies itself with a particular thing. And say, then you go beyond the identity, then there is a principle called Mahat of the consciousness. That Mahat consciousness is a sense of feeling that you don't feel that there is somebody different. Like you feel no boundaries. You feel everyone is part of you. And one who starts living that state of consciousness is called Mahatma. Mahatma Gandhi was given that title because he did not find, this is my pain or that is somebody else's pain. Because when you start feeling someone else's pain as your own pain, then you are in that state of consciousness which is called Mahatma.
So in your conception of the world, I presume that it doesn't rely, what strikes me is that it doesn't rely on something external, something supernatural or something. It really starts very much internally. The problem in physics, for instance, has been that the justification of the laws or the design of the physical laws has often been allocated to some external Platonic reality, and that hasn't really been much progress.
No, it's different. Not that way. He says the external. There is no external, internal. It is all one flow.
That's what I mean. That's what
So
I mean.
definitely something also affects the mind. They said, so suppose you have eaten some wrong food, then your consciousness is affected by it, then your thinking gets affected by it, and then your perception gets affected by it. So it is the same perception, either you put it outside and then or you take it inward. The sharpness of intellect is essential. So he said, unless your intellect is sharp, you cannot go in the spiritual journey. This they have always said. And for intellect to be strong, your emotions have to be settled. This is another thing they have always said. When your emotion is calm and serene, your intellect becomes very sharp. There is another example. They said, on a short wall, if you keep a light, the light falls on both sides of the room. So if there is keeping a light on the short wall is a first step. They said you become aware of what is outside and become aware of what is inside. What these days people have started calling as mindfulness, to be more aware and mindful. So that is just the first step to have the lamp on the mid wall and the short wall.
That is the same in modern physics. If you're too excited, you can't do calculations.
Yeah. Lovely.
Yeah.
Moving towards one of the questions which many of us has about whether we have other life forms in our universe, in our galaxies. And Thomas has worked on the theory where it does not only say about life form in our galaxies, there are many such universes like us, billions of such universes called multiverses. So Thomas, can you tell us a little bit for all the audience that what is multiverse and what is our role in our universe?
Well, that is a big question. I think the ideas about the multiverse have been a bit too wild. It doesn't really help very much to speculate about all sorts of other universes if they are completely disconnected from our being here. So the way that Hoping and I thought about the multiverse was from our not some sort of abstract space of all possible universes, but more as a multiplicity of our own past histories. So we thought of the universe from more of an observer's viewpoint, from more of a participant's viewpoint. And quantum mechanics lets you then think about the history of our universe, not as some deterministic, one unique kind of history with one thing after the other happening, but as a multiplicity of possible histories, as a horizon of possibilities. And that, I believe, will turn out to be a more productive, a more useful notion of the multiverse than maybe the kind of things that you have been hearing about.
I think similar concept is there in the ancient scriptures also. I said there are many universe, many universe. That said you cannot even count them. That many universes are there. And yet it is said it is just an appearance, because it is all just vibrations. So this is just an appearance only. Like a mirage. They explain, the mirage appears to be there, but in reality it is not there. In the same way, what exists is only one vibration. The vibrations which are special, and but objects by themselves do not exist. It's only by our perception we perceive them as objects. This is what they have said.
Yes, we agree on this point. Yes.
So lovely.
It is very not to disconnect our notion of physical reality from our being here.
Yeah.
Darwin was very good.
I think it must be equally exciting for you as it is for us to hear from the scientific angle, for you to hear from the scriptural, ancient scriptures angle.
Yes, it is quite amazing.
Yeah.
Very good.
So now we are moving towards the end, a little bit questions about one quotation which was hanging in Einstein's office in Princeton University towards the end of his life. It says that what really counts cannot be counted. Maybe he was talking about truth, love, beauty. So as a physicist, though we understand the universe, Gurudev, still we need to experience truth, love, beauty in our day-to-day life. So I would like to ask you, because you are the living example of that, what is truth, love, beauty? It cannot be counted, but what is that in the context of space-time?
The word measure in English comes from Sanskrit root, that is miyate. Miya means measure. Miya in Sanskrit. He said all that is the manifest universe of 5 elements, it can all be measured. Everything can be measured. All that can be measured is called Maya. And that which cannot be measured is the nature of consciousness. What is that? Peace. You cannot measure peace in ounces. You cannot measure beauty. You cannot measure truth. And you cannot measure love. So these 4 things, truth, love, peace and beauty, cannot be measured, and it is the nature of our own pure consciousness. So this is what we are made up of. Like our body is made up of amino acid, carbohydrate, proteins and minerals and all that. Our consciousness is made up of courage, valor, peace, beauty, all these values. And it is in a small mind, like our body has many cells and each cell has got its own life. So it is said that, like you are also just a part of the whole universe. There is a big mind and your mind is just part of that small mind. You are a small mind of a big mind, and the big mind is infinity. So that is what is the understanding, and the whole world is filled with these values of beauty, of truth, of peace, joy, energy, courage. These cannot be measured. Yeah. So lovely having you, Thomas.
Thank you very much.
I know your sister, she's doing wonderful job. She's doing so much work in the world. She's bringing peace to you don't know how many. I don't know whether she has told you. She has done so much work in the Middle East with the IAHV and Art of Living. and she is also head of training department. She trains many teachers in Europe who in turn bring peace and happiness to many, many people around.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes. Congratulations on your work and all the very best for the future endeavors.
And it was so nice talking to. I think we should spend a little longer time. I want to hear more about your finite theory of the visible universe. And I'm sure it's very, very interesting for many, to know more about it from a different perspective.
I'm finishing a book on this, and I will be happy to come to India.
Lovely, very nice. All the best.
Thank you.
Namaste.